Chennai 2UG session for 2025. We are really excited to have you with us today, and I'm sure the participants are going to love what you're going to show us today. With that, wish a very happy New Year to all of you. Um, yeah, and we have a few more participants joining us, but I think we can get started with your introduction, Louis, and then we can dive into the session.
Sounds good. So thank you for having me. Happy New Year to everyone. So I'm Louis. Let me just share my screen so it can make it easier for you guys. Let's see. Okay, so this is just a QR code that links to all my socials. So I'm Louis. I'm a two-time Tableau public ambassador. I also co-lead the Singapore Tableau user group, so I know how much logistics go behind, arranging all these calls. So, kudos to Deepa and Shrikant to, organize this. I also co-lead the community project Games Like This, which is a community project that we curate video games related data set and kind of put for challenges for the data fam to kind of take part in. And recently I've done kind of like a YouTube channel that I have interviewed some of the authors behind the great list of the day. So if you're interested, you can check this out over at this link. I think today I have about like 55 videos. We did a Iron Viz Christmas special, so I interviewed about 20 of them over the course of Christmas. So it's quite an interesting one because this year's Iron Viz is the quality is really good. And if you guys are not aware, next Wednesday is the announcement for the qualifiers. So they're going to pick top 10 and the top three, who will go into San Diego to compete with one another on stage this year's April. So really excited to see who gets into top 10. So today, what I'm going to do is I'll be sharing with you on how I'm using all these 10 different tips and tricks to make dashboards better in terms of user experience. So this was a follow-up for another visualization that I did last year, which is more on like the calculation parts of it. This particular dashboard is more on the visual side of it, like how do you hack certain way of presenting data, and it's not really overly complex. So I'll do like kind of like a live demo today. There are a couple of things that are really interesting. One of it is the rounded rectangles. I think traditionally when you think about rounded rectangles, people think about creating that rounded rectangles in Figma or PowerPoint and import it as a image. But actually, you can actually do this within Tableau itself. And a special shout out to Irene Domis, because she's the one that came out with this. So how this is done is you can have kind of like a blank sheet. If you don't have anything here, it shows a blank canvas. So you do still need kind of like a dummy value. So you can just double click on the quick calculation over here and just put a double quote. And once you have that, you can see that there's this little blue box. So you can go ahead and hide this, reduce the size and stuff like that, and then you have a blank canvas. So from here, what we want to do is that you can actually right click and add a annotation on point. All right, and you don't have to add anything here, but now, sorry, not point, area. So if you do here, right, you can see that now we have this little box that we can play around. Okay, and you can actually add an additional one if you want, kind of like a shadow effect. So let me go ahead and add two of this over here. Let me see. Okay, so this one you can actually right click and format, right? And you can actually change this to a rounded corners. Let me just change the colors a little bit so it's easier to see, right? Maybe I'll make it darker a little bit, right? So you can see if we shift this over here and kind of resize this, right? You can see that this has a rounded rectangle, right? If you want to do kind of like a shadow effect, you just need to make sure that the the layer order is the correct one. So let's say this is the shadow because this is the one that is in front. You can go ahead and set this to 100, set this to white, set this to very rounded, and then you can just put it right above it, and then do something like this. And then you have kind of like a 3D effect of a kind of beveled rounded rectangles. And this is actually the same technique that I use for each and every of these boxes over here. So you can see all this is actually one sheet by itself, right? So this is how you would actually do rounded rectangles in Tableau natively, right? The next thing I want to go through is toggle buttons, right? So toggle buttons are very useful when you want to have some form of action within your dashboard. So the quick and easy way of doing this, let me just open this up, right, is to just have a kind of like a quick calculation over here. So it doesn't matter what you actually put here. It could be like minimum 0, minimum 1, it's fine. But the idea is just to have a axis, and then you can actually go ahead and hide this one, right? So for toggle buttons, what we usually need to do is that we need to create a parameter. So over here, I have already a parameter that I created. So this is just a true false value, right? So you can go ahead and drag this to color, all right? And you can drag this to, even the text itself. And let's just increase the size a little bit so you can see over here. Let me just put it right in the middle. And then kind of increase the size a little bit so you can see, right? And then let me just show this parameter over here, right? So over here, you can see like true and false, right? When you select this, it actually changes. The one thing you want to do for toggle button is that this is a kind of like a neat trick. So you can actually put the toggle value back into the detail. And if you double click on it, right, and you just put a not in front, what basically this does, it will always return the opposite of the value, right? And this can be used when you create an action for this sheet, right? So when you're creating an action, because you want to kind of do this as a toggle, you can go ahead and select a change parameter action. And then you want to target the toggle value, which is the one that we have on true and false. But the problem is you want the value to be always the opposite of what the parameter is. So which is why we have the not function over here. So this will always return the opposite. So if you use this, and then now you can see that it actually switches in between all of them, the two values. So it's a very quick way of doing a toggle value. So there are a couple of ways that you can make this a bit more interactive by just like changing the text, changing a color a little bit, putting a transparent shape over it as well. But I'll not go into much detail on that. The next thing I want to showcase is cumulative. So often in times when we build business dashboard, we always have kind of like a cumulative value. So it could be, your year-to-date sales or month-to-date sales. And sometimes the date range is too big. Like this, for example, this view is showing a 5 years or 4 years trend, but we only want to see kind of like the last 30 days. All right. We could drop the filter over here and just put, like the last, let me see, last month, previous 1 month. But the problem is that, previous 1 month, let me see, just last month, including this month, right? But you can see that this actually starts from 0 itself. This 5331 is the sales for December, but we are losing all the data from the previous of December, right? So if we do this, it doesn't take the previous value and kind of accumulate it. So this cumulative is actually a wrong value itself. So what we want to do is actually to create a calculated field, and I can show you how the calculated fields looks like. All right, so it's pretty straightforward. So what you want to do is you have a parameter. Okay, this parameter is actually for us to switch between the two variants, right? So it's just a simple true and false. And from there, what you want to do is that's 30 days, right? So this is the parameter. So this parameter actually just says if the parameter is true, which is we only want to see last 30 days, then we just check that the order date is more than the max of the order date minus 30. So you will take the last 30 days of it. So you can play around with this, but this actually essentially gives you a set interval that you can actually play around with. And after this, what you could do is that instead of having that as a filter, you can drop this over at the shelf, right? And you can see that there's actually two different buckets here. You have everything from the 1st of May all the way to 1st of November. And then you have the rest continuing from December. So over here, you can see that the December value is actually 2 million, which is a cumulative of the past 4 years, right? Which is what we want to do. So from here, what you could do is that you can just simply hide the non-values, all right? Can hide away, take away the show header itself, and then now you have the values of the 2 million over here. So this is, and you can actually do this to show or hide the cumulative. So that's a very quick way of doing a last 30 days, right? Now, the next thing we want to show is the dynamic period, right? So what I mean by dynamic period is that you when you have a date on the column shelf itself, you can only have like one format of it. Like you can show days, you can either show months, weeks, or years. But if you want to give the user some form of interactivity, then what you want to do is to create kind of like another parameter. All right, so this parameter is very straightforward. It just shows whether we are showing it by day, by week, by month. All right, and you can put it over here. Currently, it doesn't work because we haven't set anything up. But what we want to do is instead of having the order date itself, we want to create our own order date. Right. So what I have created here is a period that is dynamic. Right. So what this does is that it checks the parameter. So when it's day, then I want to just return the original date itself. When it's week, I want to truncate the date to week. And when it's month, I'm going to truncate it by month. And once you have that, you can actually take the order date away and then put this over here, right? And then now you can see that this is by days. If you switch it over by weeks, it aggregates and put it by week. If you put it by month, it aggregates and put it by month. Right. So this is a quick way of giving your users the flexibility of switching in between different date periods. Right. So this is a very cool method. The next thing I want to do is show you how we can actually use sets as a filter. So sets are very powerful because you can actually exclude and include values for that. So for example, over here, I have like all of the different categories and subcategories, right? In the Superstore data, there's actually something called the regional manager, which is, let me just show you. So the regional manager is just the kind of like an account manager, right? And if you, like say, for example, you want to have just, the last two, Roseanne and Sadie. If you do this, right, the filter that appears on, like you can't have the user use this filter because it will still show the Chuck Meiji and Fred Suzuki in the filter itself, but I want to hide those options from them, right? So how I can do that is that I can create a set itself, right? So creating a set is very simple. So you can right click on region manager and just create a set, right? So once you do that, it would show up this where you can select the values that you want. So for example, I only want to show Roseanne and Sadie, right? I put a OK. I put the set name itself. And then now if I show it as a filter, you can see that only Roseanne and Sadie is showing, right? So you can still show this filter for the users and they will only be having these two options, right? So you can actually hide the other two. So this is one way you can use sets as a filter, which is very interesting. The other one you can do is using sets to drill down to a specific kind of data set. So what I mean by that is that over here, we have a scatter plot, right, of the different products, right? I think the square actually, the shapes represents the category. So if I show this filter, oh wait, not filter. If I show the legend, where is the legend? Worksheet, cards, view. Okay, I can't remember where was the legends. Yeah. Okay, so circle is furniture. The diamond is office supplies, and the squares are technology. All right. We can actually create something like a profit. So, for example, let's say we can just do a simple, sum profit. If it's more than 0, right? And then this can be used to color it, right? So anything that is positive, let's say we do this like gray, and then this will be, sorry, this will be green, right? So those that are green are positive profits, right? And now I want to give the user some form of interactivity in drilling down the different categories or whatnot. And how I can do that is, firstly, what I want to do is I can actually create a subcategory, right? Right. So over here, you can see that this is the subcategory that you have, which is, if you take a look at this, it's tables, chairs, phones, storage, and so on and so forth, right? I can create something called a subcategory where I show the profit itself, right? So this is basically you can just right click on subcategory and create a set, and then you set a condition to this, right? So this actually would give you anything, would separate the data set into two portions, one that has profit and one that has loss, right? So you can see over here is just an if else statement. So if the profit loss equals to profit, this is actually just a parameter for us to switch. Then we want to kind of show the profit that is more than 0. If not, we want to show the profit that's less than 0, right? And then we can create something as a selected category. So what this means is that it will count if the category equals to 1, all right? Meaning that you have selected a specific category, right? And this is actually over here, right? So if, let me see, drop down, single list, right? So if I don't select anything, that means I select all, this actually returns false, right? And once I select one category only, this will return 1, right? And why I'm doing this is that because I want to do kind of like a drill down, right? And you can actually combine these two different sets together, right? And how you do this is that you can right click on your created set and create a combined set, right? So once you do that, you can select the sets that you want to combine with this. So select, what I'm doing here is I'm combining or joining the selected category with the subcategory, whether it's profit and loss, and I'm using a inner join, right? So the inner join meaning that the data must appear in both sets. So it must be in the selected category and also in the profit loss, right? So once I have this, I can just go ahead and put this over here. And now I can actually play around with different things, right? So this was a parameter that we create, was just showing profit and loss, right? So we can show this over here. And now we can play around, say, I want to just look at furniture, right? So all these are furniture with all profits and loss. And if I don't want to see losses, I only want to see profits, I can just select this and it hides all of the losses. So this is a way that you can combine multiple different sets to create even more interactivity for your users. All right. The next one I want to show you is using a combination of dimensions. All right. And what I mean by that is sometimes, or rather in this example, we have both category and subcategory. But if we want to allow the users to kind of filter down, this data set, we have to give them two filters, right? But having the users go through two filters is actually not very user friendly. And we can actually combine both of them to make it really, really useful for them. So over here, I can show you what I've done is that I've created a parameter, right? And this parameter basically just shows a different combination of the data itself, right? So you have categories and subcategories. You have the overall, which means that I don't want to hide anything. I want to show everything. And then you have the furniture total. You have the total office supplies, and also the technology total. And below each of the features, you have like furniture bookcase, furniture chairs, furniture furnishing, and so on and so forth. And you can have different values over here. So this is the value that Tableau reads, and this is the value that the user can actually see, right? So if we take a look here, you can see that it creates some sort of like a visual hierarchy for them to follow through, right? And how we can put this all together is that we can actually do a calculated field, which is over here, right? So this might look very complex, but it's actually not very complex. Let me just walk you through it. So this calculated field is basically just checking the parameter, right? So if the combined category is equals to overall, they want to return true. And when I return true, basically it shows everything. It doesn't hide anything, right? On the second else statement, this actually shows it if the user is selecting any of the values that has a total. And what this actually refers to is the furniture total, the office supplies total, or the technology total. So if it equals to total, then I want to just match the category itself, right? So I'm matching the category to the parameter, but I have to still have to do kind of like a text replacement just to take away that total from the right side of the text itself. And from there, you can actually, furniture will return furniture. So this would return true for the categories that are being selected, right? And then the last portion is actually just showing the just comparing the calculator field of the combined ones against the parameter. And the combined ones actually is over here, where it's just a simple category plus a height sign, a pipe sign, and then a subcategory. And this is very similar to how we have formatted it in the parameter itself. So you can see here, furniture, pipe, bookcase, furniture, pipe, chairs. So it's the same thing. And with this three different, this one parameter and two calculated fields created, you can actually now drop this combined category filter into the quick filter and just select the true value, right? And then now the magic begins, because you now can select overall, you can select only furniture, right? You can see that now it only shows furniture and the subcategories belonging to furniture. You can also show office supplies, right? You can also show technology total, and you can even drill down individually. Let's say you want to look at just office appliances, you want to look at office envelopes, and so on and so forth. So this is a very unique way of allowing your users that flexibility of showing what they want to see. And this is done through just one parameter instead of having like 2 or 3 filters for them to work through everything, right? So this is a very quick way of doing it. Now, tooltips are very powerful if we use it properly. And what I mean by that is you can actually color code tooltips through some calculated fields as well. So over here, you can see that we have some, products that have sales value as well. So if we drag the profits over as well, you can see that not all of the products have a positive profit. So this is a positive, this is a negative profit, right? So minus 400, you have 554, you have over here, negative $33. So I want to highlight, all those that has like a positive profit, right? So I can do the same thing that I did previously. So just doing profit more than 0, And this one, I can set it to the colors itself. This is true. And or maybe we don't have to do true, we do false because we want to identify those products that are not performing, right? And then now you can see that all is color coded, but within the tooltip itself is actually not color coded, right? So it's still in black. So what you could do is that you can create multiple different calculated fields, right? So over here, what we have is this is just a if else statement that shows if the sum of profit is close to more than zero, then I will return the tax profit. If it's less than zero, I return the tax loss. The same thing over here. I'm just checking the profit flag. If it's profit, then I return the profit flag. All right. That means returning the same value itself. If not, I don't return anything. Right. And then this two is actually the same thing as well. Oh, sorry, this one, the gray and the red. Right. This would only show if it is a loss. Right. And this two, we can easily drag this over here, all right, into the tooltip, and we can format it by, let me just drag this over at the top. So you can put them just side by side, and it works perfectly, right? You can make this slightly larger so it's easier to see. And then, yeah. So what this does is that now you can color code this over here. You can turn this to red and then you can turn this into a lighter gray, for example, right? And then now you can see that this is a loss, this is a profit, this is loss, this is a profit, yeah, and a loss, right? So this is how you actually color code tooltips, which is very interesting way of kind of adding additional context for your users, right? Now, the second last piece is the text wrapping. All right. So text wrapping is a bit iffy in Tableau because the text wrapping only works for dimension, right? So if you try to put this in a label, you can see that the labels all don't kind of wrap themselves around, right? So for example, like this one, you see it just goes all the way there, but it doesn't wrap around, right? For this one, you see Fellows PB500, it actually wraps into two lines. So there are a couple of ways of doing this, but I think the Fellow screens have something that they have created, which works perfectly. And how they do it is actually through using regex, right? So over here, you can see that it's a very complicated one, but you can actually download the workbook and just reuse the same kind of formula. And what this does is it has this additional feature called a text wrap length. Right, that's the only thing you need to change over here. So here you basically set the amount of characters where you want the sentence to wrap. Right, so I put it at 40 characters, and now if I just instead of putting the actual product name over here and I put this over here, right, you can see that now it actually wraps around it, right? So this is a very good way of adding, really cool text labels to your charts itself, especially if it's too long, right? Or you can even truncate that if you want to, right? The last two tips I have for you is very powerful, and this was actually first introduced to the Data Fam, I think in TC this year, last year, sorry, Tableau conference by Torre, Heidi, Annabelle as well. So how this trick work is that when you're building tables like this, or it could be any other forms of data visualization as well, the names of the measure are pretty much fixed. You can actually add like aliases. So for example, this one, I want to add like profit ratio percentage over here, right? But the problem with this is that you can only have one aliases for each measure, and you can't actually duplicate it. So for example, if I want to show profit ratio in percentage, I want to show it in decimal points, I want to show it in fixed numbers, I can't actually do it in different pages because the Tableau actually reads this measure as one of the same one, right? So even if you have kind of like aliases, if you change one alias, it actually changes for everything, right? So one way of hacking this, let me just show you, is that like now I can't actually add an additional profit ratio over here, right? So you can actually double click on the profit ratio, right? And you can go to the very first position, and you can just type slash slash, and this is a comment feature, right? Meaning that you want to add a comment to a measure itself, and you can actually add some fancy title. So let's say I just put like fancy profit title 1, right? And then from here, what you want to do is that you want to do a shift enter. So shift enter actually breaks the calculation in 2 lines. If you use your arrow key to go up and down, you can see that the first one is actually the comment line, the second one is actually the measure itself. And when you hit enter, you can see that now you have this fancy profit title 1, right? And it resets the value, the format of the value itself. So for example, now I can actually set this to where is it? Fancy profit title. I can set this to, let's say, multiple decimal points. Let's say I want to have like 5 decimal points, right? And then I can actually drag the profit ratio back here, right? And it retains the original one. And I can go ahead and kind of redo this as many times as I want. So for example, now let's say I do a fancy profit title 2, and I do a shift enter, right? And then now I have the second one, right? And this one I can go ahead and format it to, let's say, I want to do it like a dollar sign, right? I can do that as well. And I can still drag the original one over here, right? And now you actually have 3 different formats that you can play around with. And this is very useful, especially when you're building kind of tables for different pages, and you want to reuse the original measures in like different ways or different methods where you kind of show the formats, right? And this leads to the final trick I have for you when it comes to scatter plot, right? So scatter plot is not something that is used often, but it's a very good way of kind of showing showing the relationship between 2 different measures. So over here you have quantity by sales. Let me just reset this, right? And then let me just show this, right? So we have shapes. So if you have like the original square or circles, what you could do is that you can have like a lighter opacity, and you can have the borders itself, right? So you have different borders. You can also have like circles with like different borders itself. But you can see that the colors actually don't match the circles themselves, right? You can't actually assign a different color to each of the borders, right? And this is a bit problematic. The only way you could possibly do it is having it as a shape, right? So you can actually drag the category into shape, right? And then now you have, let me see, show the legend, right? Sorry, not the legend, the colors, right? And then you can have the colors, right? You have blue for furniture, orange for office supplies, and so forth, right? But the problem is if you use shapes, right, you can't have a bordered shape with this unless you create a custom shape by yourself, right? How you could actually hack this is that you can actually just drag, an additional dual axis, and then for the second one, for the colors, for the shapes, what you want to do is that you want to use the same method that we used in the previous one, which is the aliases hack. You do kind of like a shape modifier or something, and shift enter. And now you can actually change this to the non-filled ones. So for furniture, you can do a circle, office supplies a square, the diamond, and then this is a square. And then now you can see that it retains the same color, but it has a border itself, right? And from here, what you could do is that you can lighten the opacity of this one, right? And then you can just go ahead and do it as a dual axis, and you can actually synchronize. And now you have the borders that are the same color as the original shape and color itself. So with that, that covers all of our 10 hacks over here. Anyone have any questions? Hopefully this is useful for you guys.
Yes, Louise, it was indeed very useful. At least the first two ones were, you know, something that we always look up to. So creating the rounded, the rectangle, that's one. And secondly, the toggle button. Guys, if you have any questions, you can post it on the chat. Shrikant, do you have
Hey
anything?
Luis, hey Luis, Shrikant here.
Hey Shikan.
Thanks for accepting our invite and uh, showing the 10 hacks, which is wonderful. So
My
we were
pleasure.
using images for this rounded rectangles. So luckily you
Yeah.
have shown us today
I
how to
used
make
to use
them.
images as well, and then I found this hack, and I never went back because this is so much easier. Because with images, it's a bit more troublesome because you have to create it in Tableau, or sorry, in Figma or PowerPoint.
Correct.
And the problem with images is that it has like a certain size to it, so you can't actually expand and change the different size. And for here, if you see this rounded box, if I click on this and expand, this is the same rounded box that was in the smaller ones. I didn't change, like I didn't add a new shape into it. It's just that when I have, let's say I can drag this over here, right? This is a, let's see, right? This is the one that we created just now. And if you resize this, the rounded containers actually just resize itself, right? So this is a very quick way of doing it natively in Tableau, and you don't have to kind of import different sizes images and like do dynamic zone visibility or whatnot.
Great. That made our life easier a bit.
Yeah.
Thanks for that.
No problem at all. Yeah,
So do we
cool.
have any questions from the participants? Anyone wants to?
And this session will be uploaded in YouTube. In case if you want to go through again, you can always refer there.
Yeah. And Louis, do you want to flash the QR code again? I missed
Oh,
that.
sure. Let me see. Yeah, in case you guys want to connect with me, just feel free to send me a linking message or Twitter, depending on which one you guys use. Yeah.
Great. All right. If there are no questions, I think we can wind up.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Louis, again, thank you so much for joining us today. It was wonderful having you with us,
Yeah.
and
Thank you
we
for
really
having
look
me.
forward to hosting you again.
Yeah, sure. Let me know.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you,
All right.
everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Thanks to all the
Cheers.
participants.
Bye.